everybody. A very good evening to all of you. Welcome to the third interview of Mental Health Warrior series. In the last 2 weeks, we have met Shrishti and we have met Rishabh. Now, today, we are about to meet Ricky. Ricky has been doing therapy with me since February 2020, and the major concerns that he had come in with was depression and anxiety. So, Ricky, tell us a little bit about your experience with depression.
So for me, depression and which I later learned even anxiety kind of stemmed very early on from childhood. I think somewhere around from fifth class. Of course, it went undiagnosed and
Yeah.
therefore untreated. But yes, it's been a very long time that I have been living with depression and anxiety. Um,
Hmm.
I think without even realizing the effects of these mental health conditions.
Yeah.
I've had challenges with my personal life, with my social life, with my
Hmm.
academics, and even professionally later. Uh,
Hmm.
and even has kind of stopped me from exploring different activities that I could probably
Correct.
have enjoyed doing doing
Hmm.
them either on a regular basis or on an occasional basis. Uh,
Hmm.
what it really did was it stopped me from knowing who my true self is, and what my self worth
Hmm.
is,
Hmm.
and that kind of put me into a spiral hole all through these
Hmm.
years,
Yeah.
which kind of really stopped me from being my truest potential. And in the later stages, when things got really bad, I think it kind of stopped me from doing very simple, mundane tasks, as simple
Hmm.
as being present and attentive in a meeting, in a
Yeah.
work meeting, uh, being able to read. I think it got so bad that despite for someone who loved reading, it
Hmm.
became uh, repulsive to even see any word in a written form. Uh,
Yeah.
it was that bad. So yeah, so anxiety as a disorder can be very debilitating. It can
Hmm.
really make you uh, limping on doing very simple basic tasks in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. And that is the nature of both of these disorders, isn't it? That they really they start off from a small point and then they kind of spread in all other aspects of your life as well, which was well evidenced by your answer. One very key part about you that I had observed was that there was also a point where you experienced high functioning depression. So, for the audience, high functioning depression is where the person is able to put in the work on a professional level. He is really in control over there and he's getting things done. But back in personal life and in maybe social life as well, all the symptoms of depression are present. So, could you tell the viewers a little bit about high functioning depression?
Yes, I think what depression does is that it basically sucks out all the energy that you can possibly have to even lead a very normal day with zero activities in a day. But with depression, that simple task becomes very difficult, very energy draining. You don't have the energy to kind of do anything in your personal life. You
Hmm.
basically end up, probably in my case, was sleeping all through the day, which
Hmm.
definitely affected uh, my sleep in the night, which led to
Hmm.
insomnia. Uh, so what you can't do in your personal life or social life, uh, you tend to compensate it at your professional life, and
Correct.
that's the same case with me. So while I had zero energy in my personal space, um, I somehow managed to kind of bring up all that energy at my workplace,
Hmm.
be very good at my job, uh, it kind of helped me to uh, grow in my career very quickly, uh,
Hmm.
which but it came at a cost, uh,
Correct.
which of course you continue doing because you get rewarded, for all your work
Hmm.
at the workplace.
Hmm.
But it's definitely not something that is sustainable for you as an
Correct.
individual, and also for your co-workers at the workplace.
Right. So you very correctly said that there becomes a tendency to overcompensate for what you're missing out in your personal and social life, and then that becomes like that unhealthy coping mechanism that all the negativity I'm feeling, I channelize it into the work. And while it sounds really positive in the beginning, like you said, that it's not very sustainable and not very healthy at the end of the day. So Ricky, what was the point where you decided कि नहीं अभी तो मतलब I have to take therapy. It's high time that I do.
Um, I think I waited till things got worse.
Okay.
I think it took a basic mental breakdown, uh, which further led to challenges at my workplace, in addition to what I was facing personally.
Hmm.
And the basic inability to kind of do simple tasks in a day, like getting up from your bed in the morning, uh, going and brushing your teeth, taking a shower,
Yeah.
eating your meals. That's when I realized that I can no longer continue doing what I am doing,
Hmm.
because if I continue going along this path, it will soon be difficult and impossible for me to
Yeah.
kind of live a normal life.
Hmm.
Uh, I definitely need to seek help, and I need to seek
Hmm.
help from a professional who could uh, you know, show me the way out of this. And
Correct.
I think that kind of led me to, first a psychiatrist, and then,
Hmm.
a counseling therapist. Uh,
Hmm.
Having said that, it's not that I did not try to do this earlier.
Hmm.
Too, I've had I've had this inkling that I needed help even before,
Yeah.
and I did take appointments, but because of lack of awareness, because of not knowing what the process is going to be like,
Hmm.
I always ended up having cold feet, when I reached a doctor's place.
So I think this was a very real barrier that you faced. Not knowing what the process is going to be like and being overwhelmed by the simple task of perhaps choosing a therapist, booking an appointment, and showing up for it. Were there any other barriers that you felt?
I think it's also because uh, so ideally, when you're sick, your loved ones kind of jump in and make those appointments with the doctor, take you to the doctor, help you with your tests, help you
Hmm.
with your daily tasks. You basically have an entire support system that comes,
Yeah.
for you when you have any physical ailment. But you don't get that support when you're going through a mental illness.
Okay.
Because people don't think it's something real, or I feel that since they haven't experienced the extremes of having poor mental health and
Hmm.
not knowing what those barriers are in leading your normal life,
Yeah.
uh, they they don't think it's a problem in the first place. So I think for me the barrier was that not having uh, people who could actually understand and provide that support and care that I would have appreciated a whole lot at that moment.
Yeah, yeah. I think very well said, and that kind of sums up the crux of the concerns that so many mental health professionals have been putting out on their social media handles as well. Ki, number one, be there for the people in your house or in your community who you think are going through something psychologically or mentally. Do not judge them, but make the process easier for them. So now as I mentioned earlier, that we began therapy in February 2020. So it has been almost 1.5 years that we are in this together. and we are still in the process. We are not completely concluded it, but definitely at a better point than we started. So what were certain high and low points for you in therapy?
Uh, Let me start with the highs. I think the first important experience that therapy gives you is that there is someone who is acknowledging uh, your experiences, your pain, which does not happen in the real world. So I think the first brilliant experience that I had was being that someone acknowledging that whatever I was going through or I went through is really valid and is something that can be worked upon, and there is light at the other end of the tunnel. So you know, that was that kind of really gave me confidence that this is something that I could do. I could engage in therapy, and I can find myself in a better place than what I am today. Uh, I think the lows is that, like most people, I too kind of expected there to be some kind of a magical pill that you take and everything kind of goes away. It doesn't work that way. One needs to be patient with themselves and understand that it took so many years, so much of time, and so many experiences to get you in the place that you are today, which you're
Yeah,
not happy with. So you have to give yourself, enough time, in comparison to the time that was spent in bringing you in this place to kind of, heal. And this whole process of healing is not linear. It's not a straight line. It's uh, it's something that one needs to kind of understand and accept it. Uh,
yeah,
um, you are going to go have some highs where you feel that you've made amazing progress and you feel proud of yourself, and then you're suddenly going to have a big low after that,
yeah, yeah,
where you're back to square one. You're back to your old ways. You can't find the energy to kind of continue the process that you
yeah.
started, and you start questioning whether that am I ever going to kind of get out of this.
Correct, correct.
And I think that's a frustrating part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say that after that low, you'll have another high too, and I think this will keep happening multiple times, and it can get really frustrating. But the good part is that you're in this journey with a safe person, a trained professional who understands that this is part of the process, who isn't judging you, who's really going to kind of give you the space to kind of get back on your feet again,
Yeah,
to kind of provide those gentle nudges when you need them to kind of get back on track, and it will
yeah.
happen. It's actually
Correct.
a sign that you're making progress,
Hmm.
and that kind of gives you hope that yes, you will make it.
Correct. So I remember the sessions where we had a lot of progress, and I also remember the sessions wherein I sensed that you were stuck, and that the things that we were discussing in sessions were not really translating into actual action. So that was the place where, in bed, like you said, that without judging what you were going through, it was still my job to get you, really push you and get you out of that phase as well. So I think what you said, that the growth, it will always be circular, but it won't be linear, is something that all of the viewers right now can take note from. So now that we have made this journey so far, what are some key changes or key differences that you observe in yourself because of therapy or because of the work that you have put in?
Um, I think I think the first change that I observed was being self-aware. I think I'm as part of the process. You You are kind of trained to be aware of your thought patterns, your behavioral patterns, which really play a very important role in the way you feel. And in the
Correct.
case, and in the case of depression or anxiety, it's the way you feel is not necessarily desirable and really
Hmm.
kind of prevents you from living your life. Uh,
Hmm.
so I think that self awareness is something that is key. Very intently on all your thoughts and actions in a very healthy way, and to
Mm-hmm.
find ways to kind of modify those those feelings or those behavior, those thought processes,
Hmm.
without invalidating them,
Hmm.
but finding a way to kind of finding the right balance between
Yeah.
what you're feeling and what you would like to feel.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think that's first self awareness. The second thing that is you kind of let go of this feeling of shame and hopelessness.
Hmm.
Uh, Depression does this to you. You feel very
Hmm.
hopeless.
Hmm.
I don't know how to describe the feeling of hopelessness. Most people would say, hey, even I feel hopeless at times. Yes, the difference
Hmm.
is that you feel hopeless all the time and you feel a whole bunch of shame uh,
Hmm.
uh, um, while kind of living your life.
Correct. So
So
how
yeah,
has that changed now?
so I think now that shame has gone away.
Hmm.
There is I don't feel shameful for my inadequacies
Hmm.
that whatever my mind perceives. I don't feel hopeless all the while. I think there is hope, and there is much more than that. I think
Yeah.
I can see myself envisioning my present and my future without letting the
Right.
past kind of play a role in it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so I think that's been the second most important change.
Now we spoke about certain changes that have happened. Now, personally, I also believe that during the process of therapy, a person finds out some things about himself or herself which maybe was not he or she wasn't aware of before. कि अच्छा ऐसे भी मैं सोचता हूँ या ऐसे भी मैं करता हूँ और this could be the reason behind what is happening right now. So were there some key insights that you stumbled upon or you gathered about yourself in the process?
So yeah, so what depression really does and anxiety kind of does to you is that you kind of live in your own little bubble.
Hmm.
Most likely there is loneliness also involved. So what that does to you is that you keep repeating certain statements unknowingly to yourself, as if they were facts, and because you've repeated them to yourself so many times through the years, uh, they tend to affect the way not only how you feel but how you kind of behave.
Yeah.
And I think a key learning through therapy was to kind of understand this relationship between your thought and your behaviors and your actions.
Yeah.
And it's important to be able to manage these thoughts and in turn then manage those feelings
Correct.
and then in turn those behaviors.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's something that uh, I realized through therapy, that I had a lot of these, if I could say, faulty thoughts that I had built over the
Hmm.
years, and which I
Hmm.
kind of was living it as if it were some gospel truth,
Hmm.
when in fact that wasn't the reality, but it was affecting my reality.
Correct.
And I think therapy gave me that space to kind of understand these things and be more aware of these things, and to kind of make small changes in these things to kind of bring a much bigger change.
Right.
Uh, you know.
Correct. So you also mentioned when we were discussing earlier that you also learned to accept your emotions without invalidating them, at the same time knowing that they are not facts. So that is
Yes.
something that most of us confuse with, that if I'm saying that my emotions are not facts, am I say invalidating the whole experience for myself? So that's what you had said before, that that's not the case. I I can accept that I'm feeling something, and at the same time I can accept that it still does not make it a fact. Like you just spoke about the gospel truth kind of thing, right? So very, I mean, it was, as I was listening to that, I was really pleased to know that this is something that you have observed about yourself. And another thing that I would want to add over here is about how we keep going back to things that gave us comfort and things that felt familiar. Do you have something to add on that?
Yes, I think I still do it at times. Whenever a situation that old situation kind of repeats itself, the body and mind kind of quickly goes to doing what it has done for so many years, and it takes that self awareness to kind of stop yourself and kind of do those new routines that you have, those new habits that you have built, to kind of replace these older, not so good, unhelpful habits or thought
Correct.
mechanisms.
Correct.
As I mentioned in the earlier part of our conversation,
Yeah.
I kind of was a good employee at my workplace. I kind of got success very quickly, but the
Hmm.
methods that I employed to kind of do that were unhealthy, unsustainable, and
Yeah.
while might have seen a success at that point in time, I know that I cannot do them again because it will get me back to where I started
Correct.
with my
Correct.
mental health journey,
Yeah.
and you don't want that for yourself. Uh,
True.
so yeah, it's something that it's something that my therapist said, you
Hmm.
said, just kind of stuck with me, is that if you're in a relationship, are you going to be talking about and hoping that this relationship where like your past relationship, or would you just like move on and find something new
Hmm.
yourself? And I always remind myself that whenever I kind of look back to
Hmm.
wanting to have one particular aspect of my life in my current life, I remind myself that it's literally not helpful to kind of have those aspirations. I think in fact, what would be helpful is to give yourself permission to have newer experiences and newer
Correct.
uh, ways of experiencing things.
Correct. So I think it's also a lot like breaking in a new shoe, right? That these old coping mechanisms that have been giving you some kind of comfort, which is why you keep going back to them. They definitely feel alluring at the situations where they are triggering. The situations are negative for you. So उस time पे it's very much tempting to keep going back to that. So like in new shoe, when you start walking it initially, it hurts a bit and you don't quite find the comfort that you did with your earlier pair of shoes. But then we still stick on with it because we know कि जो पहले वाले shoes है, those are broken or they are tattered, and which is why I definitely need to break in the new shoes. So it's very much similar to that, that even though the old coping mechanisms worked at some point, that's no reason for you to keep continuing to use them even in the present. So I think that also highlights our point of letting go of that past baggage, where you said that not constantly thinking about what it was like and what it's like now, and kind of not building a shrine to the experiences that you have gone through before. Final question to you, Ricky. What message would you give out? So I have asked this question to all the mental health warriors so far. So the same question to you: that what message would you give out to the people who are in the audience right now, who are maybe thinking of taking therapy?
I think simple advice is, if you are suffering, if you are feeling challenged, go seek help.
Hmm.
It works.
Hmm.
And you will have professionals working for you for your health, and they will be with you all through the process, uh, and will be using scientifically proven methods that
Yeah.
have shown to have worked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just talking. It does not involve advice, which most
Mm-hmm.
people think therapy is,
Yeah. True.
and it's not only just medications. It's a whole bunch of different things that is curated for your journey, but depending on your severity of your conditions, it's
Correct.
so it's not one pill that fits all
Hmm.
scenario. And most importantly, it's a safe place
Hmm.
uh, where you can work through your challenges. There are no judgments. Even when you're going through your highs and lows, there are absolutely no judgments. Uh, uh, in fact, you will have champions behind you who want you to succeed, who want you to get over the challenge that you're facing and come to a place where you can live your life in a very fruitful manner.
True.
Um, yeah, and don't wait for it to become severe before you seek
Hmm.
help. I
Yeah.
did. Uh, get help when you already notice that you are facing challenges, you feel stuck. That's a
Hmm.
good place to start therapy and to seek
Hmm.
medical
Hmm.
care. Please seek help. Help is available. There are a whole lot of organizations who are sponsoring therapies for people. So get help,
Hmm.
even if it seems difficult, even if it seems a long, tiring process.
Yeah.
Go for it, because eventually you will be on the other side of it, and you will only thank yourself for taking that step in the first place.
True, true. And I sincerely hope that you have thanked yourself at least once for taking this step, for staying put with therapy. So, that is one quality of yours that I would really like to point out right now, that you were really persistent in the whole process. That there was not a single day where you told me that I am done with this process, I don't want to take any more sessions, I'm okay with being depressed, let it be. To hell with it. So that never came in your case, even when we were stuck, even when we were struggling to get out of that low phase. That's a big, big compliment to you, Ricky. And I definitely hope that you continue doing that with your everyday mental health routine, your practices, everything. So that brings me to the end of my interview with you. Thanks so much for giving your time. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope that anybody who is in the public right now who felt even a single part of our conversation helpful, do reach out to a mental health professional. Right? Like Ricky said, don't wait till it becomes so severe that it has started hampering every single part of your life. So, shall we conclude?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Take care, everybody. And I will see all of you next Sunday with the next Mental Health Warrior. Stay tuned. Bye bye. Stay safe.